A jury has found Donthe Lucas guilty of first-degree murder in the 2013 disappearance of his pregnant girlfriend, 21-year-old Kelsie Schelling. The verdict came just after a few hours of deliberations in a trial with no witnesses called for the defense. Schelling was last seen on February 4th, 2013, in Pueblo, Colorado, more than 100 miles from her Denver home. She had reportedly traveled there to talk to Lucas about her 8-week-old pregnancy. According to KCNC-TV, her body was never found. Lucas pleaded not guilty in August 2018 to first-degree murder. Dozens of witnesses had testified during the past 3 weeks, and the prosecution had rested their case on Friday. KKTV-TV reported the defense had been expected to summon witnesses on Monday, but they rested their case instead. Lucas's main defense was the absence of a body or a cause of death in Shelley's disappearance, though prosecutors said Lucas's story had never held up and that he had lied from the beginning in the investigation. Lucas was sentenced to life in prison without parole. An Ohio mother and her boyfriend are facing a combined total of 31 charges in connection with the death of her 6-year-old son. Brittany Gosney was indicted Friday by a Butler County grand jury on 16 counts, including a single count of murder, 1 count of involuntary manslaughter, 1 count of tampering with evidence, 5 counts of endangering children, 3 counts of kidnapping, 3 counts of abduction, and 2 counts of gross abuse of a corpse, WCPO reported. The 29-year-old suspect is accused of killing her son, James Hutchinson. According to a police report, she attempted to abandon the child and his 2 siblings, both in 2nd grade, on February 27th in Rush Run Wildlife Area. Authorities said her boyfriend, James Hamilton, had been pressuring her to get rid of them at the time. Gosney dumped her kids in the parking lot and then attempted to drive off, but James Hutchinson grabbed onto the car's bumper. He was dragged for a distance before he lost contact, according to the police report. The mother told authorities that when she returned, he was dead. Police said she put his body and her 2 other children back in the car, then drove back to their home in Middletown, about 35 miles north of Cincinnati. The following day, Gosney and Hamilton threw James's body into the Ohio River near Lawrenceburg. It has not been recovered. Hamilton has also been hit with 15 charges, including kidnapping, abduction, endangering children, gross abuse of a corpse, and tampering with evidence. The couple was arrested after discrepancies in their stories forced Gosney's confession. A Brooklyn murder suspect was released from Rikers Island in the dead of night after a clerical screw-up, leaving the city correction department scrambling to find him and lock him up, the Daily News has learned. Christopher Buggs, 26, has been jailed without bail while awaiting trial for more than 3 years, while he got an unlikely reprieve Tuesday in the wake of a judge's sentence to time served in a misdemeanor criminal contempt case, sources told the news. Buggs has been free ever since, considered armed and so dangerous that correction officers were warned not to approach him, but rather call the NYPD, the sources said. Late Tuesday, the NYPD released Buggs' photo and are asking anyone with information about his whereabouts to call Crime Stoppers at 800-577-TIPS. The correction department also has teams on Buggs' tail, sources said. Buggs is accused of fatally shooting Ernest Brownlee, 55, outside a Bedford-Stuyvesant Brooklyn bodega January 29, 2018, and his order of pepper steak with rice and beans grew cold on a deli counter. Brownlee, an ex-con who killed 2 men in the 1980s, was shot 3 times in the chest. Brownlee's sister-in-law, Alita Matkins, described him in a 2018 interview with the news as devoted to his sickly wife, who uses a wheelchair. He was a good man. He had his problems, but he did his time, she said. He was out working hard, taking care of his wife, who's ill. Police tracked down Buggs 5 days after the killing, charging him in the case. He was released 2 a.m. Tuesday from the Otis Bantam Correctional Center in what the Correction Department referred to as an erroneous discharge. Sources said Buggs had been sentenced to 30 days of time served for a criminal contempt case, but the sentence was mistakenly listed as the final disposition of his murder case. And the jail staffers who processed the release didn't realize the error, sources said. "That's a huge deal," said one source about the mess-up. "We are aware of this incident, and a full investigation into how this happened is underway," Correction Department spokesman Peter Thorne said. "Right now, we are working with our law enforcement partners to return this individual to custody." It's not the first time the City Correction Department has mistakenly released a prisoner. From 2009 to 2014, correction officers and bosses cut loose 23 prisoners by mistake. One inmate, Sidney Bannister, who was busted on charges he beat his 11-year-old boy with a belt, lived free for more than 2 years, unaware he was a wanted man, before authorities tracked him to a Connecticut home in December 2014.